Good morning, it's Market Day Report, and here we are working our way through another week. How about how the trade ended up in the overnight session? How about we look at that? We'll start with the corn market, good place to start, and mixed trade. The September finishing at $4, a little higher on the overnight side, but $4.18 on the new crop, unchanged. You know, the corn market has been lower now 2 consecutive sessions. And when we say that, we're talking about the daytime sessions. Well, beans higher in the overnight, up a nickel on the August, and November gained 5 3/4 cents, 10.31 1/4. Bean mill, what happened there? Soy mill, well, August at 275.60, and it was higher. All contracts were in positive territory. As far as bean oil, higher across the board. Again, 55s on every contract. Wheat market will hit Chicago, which was lower overnight. Kansas City trading in lower territory overnight. And spring wheat, mostly lower. Cotton market in the overnight session, down 9, 68.16. Go to Springfield, Missouri. President, Midwest Market Solutions, Brian Hoops. All right, Brian, no flash sales that I could see from overnight. So what are you watching?
Yeah, speaking of flash sales, it's been a minute since we've had a sale, last week, in fact. And, we've seen a rally in the U.S. dollar in that time frame. So probably no coincidence that when the dollar strengthened a little bit, our export sales have dried up. And we did see soybeans move higher. Now, there's been a host of trade agreements announced here. The Philippines, it looks like they're going to buy a significant amount of U.S. soybeans. Another agreement with Vietnam, and then a big agreement with Japan overnight. And it wasn't specifically mentioned about how many metric tons or how much product they're going to buy, but it does indicate that the U.S. is making some agreements with some of these Asian countries that really want our products and our soybeans. And so either we're going to sell the soybeans through directly to the country or through our livestock, poultry, chicken, and beef and pork sales. So it does look like we're getting some trade agreements. I think the soybean market kind of bounced off of that in the overnight. Now, the cap end is just going to be topped out in here with good growing conditions. It's very hot and muggy here across the Midwest. It's really almost ideal for corn, soybean development. And then after that, into August, we get kind of a break from the heat, cooler temperatures, and more return to more moisture. So really just an ideal greenhouse type effect. One of our brokers in our Yankton, South Dakota office is also a farmer. He did a yield check, and he's at nearly 250 bushels an acre on his farm in South Dakota, just outside of Yankton. So that's some pretty terrific yields if that does in fact hold true. There's going to be a big crop coming out there. There's been some problems or talk about some problems of pollination in certain areas. It remains to be seen, and probably won't be seen until harvest, to see how widespread that actually is. And in fact, if it does hurt these yields. The quality tour is just getting started in North Dakota. Yields came in a little bit better than the average in the southern North Dakota areas, about 50 bushel per acre for yields. Average on the tour is about 45.7.
You know, Brian, earlier you mentioned potential yields around Yankton, South Dakota. Let's focus on Yankton, South Dakota when we come back from the break, and we'll pick up the conversation with livestock. Market Day Report continues in a moment. So trade yesterday was mixed. We saw live cattle move lower. We saw feeders move higher. We mentioned Yankton, South Dakota. I jotted a note down yesterday after talking with Troy Vetterkind from Vetterkind Cattle Brokerage, and he was talking about the sale on Tuesday in Yankton, 252. So some pretty big numbers still happening out in the country. All right, live cattle futures yesterday were lower for the 2025 contracts, a little higher for the 26. August, 224.90, and it settled 32 lower on the session. Also yesterday, we saw feeders move higher for the second consecutive session. August, 328.45, up 85, 328.75 on the September. That was $1.05 higher. And hogs, Now, hogs were mixed yesterday, October and December lower, but if you look at the August contract, higher now for the last 5 sessions, 107.62, and it was up 27 cents on the session yesterday. By the way, we'll have Chris Summers coming up at 10:50 Eastern Time. We'll look at the hog market. Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. Okay, thoughts here with the livestock.
Yeah, the sale barns have been red hot for the most part, and that's reflective in our feeder cattle index. It was up another over $3 yesterday and leading the feeder cattle futures higher. Live cattle did post some new highs, but couldn't close there. Maybe a little bit of profit taking. I think once again, we saw anytime you see triple digit losses, it's a sign that there's probably some profit taking going on, but it's also an indication there's going to be some buying interest come in and buy some of these contracts, especially the August as it remains discount to the cash markets. The cash is called steady to higher this week. I think the feedlots are looking at these smaller show list numbers, tight supplies, and Friday's cattle on feed report expected to come in on feed numbers and placements both below last year's numbers, suggesting these supplies are not getting larger anytime soon. So as far as numbers go, we're very tight. The trend remains higher in both the live and the feeder cattle. We make new contract highs almost daily. So until something changes out in the country as far as the cash markets go, consumer demand, that sort of thing, who knows where how high this thing wants to go, but it looks like we're going to be at least steady, probably higher in the cash markets again this week.
All right, Brian, earlier you mentioned the dollar index. Let's go to that before we wrap things up. Dollar is a little higher here this morning as we start the trade, but it's been lower for 3 straight sessions, but trading solidly in that 97.23 range. That's where the dollar is today. Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. We'll see you back here tomorrow.